Most billion-dollar AI companies are born in Silicon Valley boardrooms. This one started in a hostel room, no legacy network, no billionaire father. No elite American surname. Just a middle-class boy from India with a laptop. And an obsession with how information flows, and here's the uncomfortable part. He didn't build another chatbot, he built a threat. The real question isn't how Aravind Srinivas built Perplexity AI. The real question is why a former IIT Madras student could challenge Google's core business model, and why investors moved so fast when he did. Because if you understand that pattern, you understand where power is shifting next. On the surface, it looks like a classic startup story. Brilliant student leaves academia, works at elite AI labs, launches startup, raises capital. Becomes a unicorn, clean narrative. But clean narratives usually hide messy incentives. Aravind Srinivas didn't begin with a company. He began with curiosity. At IIT Madras, he wasn't surrounded by Silicon Valley venture capital. He was surrounded by pressure, middle-class pressure, the kind that tells you education is leverage, that intelligence is survival. From that hostel room, he became obsessed with research, machine learning, neural networks, the architecture of intelligence itself. Not hype. Structure. He pursued a PhD, joined OpenAI. I worked at DeepMind. Touched the frontier of large language models before the public even knew what they were. And here's what most people miss. When you sit inside elite AI labs, you see two things. The magic and the bottleneck. AI models were improving exponentially, but access to knowledge was still trapped inside traditional search engines built for links, not answers. Google optimized for clicks. Advertising depends on clicks. Information monetized through attention. But here's the tension. If AI gives you direct answers, you click less. If you click less, ad revenue compresses. And if ad revenue compresses, a trillion-dollar business model shakes. Do you see the fault line? Perplexity AI wasn't built just to answer questions. It was built to restructure how search monetization works. That's not a feature upgrade. That's a power challenge. When Aravind launched Perplexity, it looked small, almost experimental, clean interface, answer engine, cited sources, conversational search. But underneath, a bet that users would prefer synthesis over links, clarity over clutter, truth over SEO manipulation. And investors noticed. Because the AI boom wasn't just about intelligence. It was about distribution. Who controls the interface between humans and information controls leverage. Search is not a utility. It's a gateway. Google built dominance over 2 decades by owning that gateway. The more searches flowed through it, the more data it accumulated. The more data it accumulated, the better it optimized ads. The better it optimized ads, the stronger its margins. Flywheel. Perplexity stepped into that flywheel. But here, where incentives get interesting. Aravind wasn't incentivized to protect legacy ad revenue. He had no legacy. He had speed. Speed changes strategy. Incumbents defend. Challengers experiment. When you're middle class, you don't protect empires. You attack inefficiencies. And searching was inefficient. SEO farms, affiliate spam, clickbait layers, 10 tabs open for one answer. You felt that friction. How many times have you searched for something simple and drowned in optimized noise? Perplexity positioned itself as the antidote. Answer first. Cite clearly. Move fast. Investors poured capital in. Why? Because in every technological cycle, when a new interface emerges, capital reallocates aggressively. .com era, browsers and portals. Mobile era, app stores. Social era, feeds. AI era, conversational agents. And here's the twist. This isn't the first time search dominance looked unbreakable. In the late 1990s, Yahoo looked permanent. Portals ruled. Directories curated the web. Then Google reframed search around PageRank. The interface shifted, power shifted. Most people didn't see it early. would you have? Be honest. When Google was small, would you have bet against Yahoo? History rewards pattern recognition, not loyalty. Now look at today. Google integrates AI into search. Microsoft integrates AI into Windows. OpenAI expands into enterprise. And in the middle of that chaos stands Perplexity. Lane, focused, aggressive. Aravind's advantage wasn't capital. It was timing. He left OpenAI before ChatGPT exploded publicly. He saw where models were heading. He understood their limitations, hallucinations, context windows, source reliability. So he designed around them. Perplexity doesn't just generate answers. It anchors them. Citations create trust. Trust creates habits. Habit creates distribution. Distribution creates valuation. And valuation attracts more capital. Do you see the compounding loop? But here, where it gets uncomfortable again. This AI boom feels euphoric. Valuations rising. Funding rounds are accelerating. Every startup claims to be AI-powered. We've seen this movie before. In 2000, companies added "com" to their name and valuations exploded. In 2021, crypto projects added Web3 and tokens pumped. Narratives attract capital. Capital inflates expectations. Expectations demand exponential growth. The question isn't whether Perplexity is impressive. It is. The question is whether the AI search race becomes rational or speculative. Because when narratives overheat, gravity returns. Would you still believe in AI search startups if funding froze tomorrow? Would you still use them if monetization introduced friction? This is where incentives matter again. Perplexity offers a cleaner interface than traditional search. But how does it monetize sustainably? Subscriptions, enterprise API access, adds the very model it disrupts. Every platform eventually confronts monetization reality. Aravind understands this. He's spoken about building long-term value, not short-term hype. But markets reward growth first. Profit later, sometimes much later, and that gap between growth and profit is where volatility lives. Look at Japan's tech optimism in the late 80s. Look at housing in 2008. Look at SPAC mania in 2021. Innovation was real. Valuations were distorted. The difference matters. Right now, AI is both transformative and inflated. Two truths can coexist. So where does that leave Perplexity? Strategically positioned, culturally aligned with a generation tired of ad-stuffed search results, technically credible, but operating inside an AI arms race backed by trillion-dollar incumbents. That's not a comfortable battlefield. It's asymmetric, and here's the personal layer. If AI search reduces friction, what happens to jobs built around SEO? If answers compress research time, what happens to analysts? If synthesis becomes automated, what happens to information workers? Technology always shifts value. It creates leverage for early adopters. It erodes stability for late ones. Which side do you plan to be on? Aravind's story isn't inspirational because he's rich. It's strategic because he saw a structural shift early. From links to language, from search to synthesis, from browsing to dialogue, he didn't chase hype, he chased the bottleneck. And bottlenecks are where value concentrates, but here's the deeper pattern. Middle-class environments create a specific psychology. You don't assume access. You optimize for competence. You don't inherit networks. You build skill density. That psychological edge matters in emerging industries. Because when new paradigms emerge, incumbents defend old incentives. Outsiders exploit new ones. Perplexity is an outsider move, and outsiders historically outperform during paradigm transitions, until they become incumbents. Then the cycle repeats, so ask yourself, if AI reshapes information access, who controls your interface? Who curates your answers? Who filters your worldview? Search isn't neutral, it's infrastructure, and infrastructure defines leverage. Most people will use whatever is pre-installed. A smaller minority will question the architecture. An even smaller minority will build the alternative. Aravind chose the third path, from a hostel room in IIT Madras to Silicon Valley capital tables, not through luck, through pattern recognition, through timing. Through understanding that when intelligence scales, distribution reorders. And we're still early. That's the uncomfortable part. If AI truly restructures information flow, we're not at the peak. We're at the beginning of consolidation, which means volatility ahead, competition ahead, failures ahead. Perplexity may dominate, it may get acquired, it may pivot. The future isn't fixed, but the pattern is clear. Every technological revolution creates new gatekeepers. The question is whether you recognize them before they're obvious. Most people won't. They'll notice after valuations stabilize, after winners are crowned, after narratives settle. But a few will track incentive shifts in real time. They'll ask who benefits. They'll analyze monetization before hype. They'll move early. If you understand why a middle-class boy could challenge $1 trillion search empire, you understand something bigger than a startup story. You understand leverage migration. Power doesn't disappear, it relocates. The only question is whether you see it while it's moving. Most won't. The minority who do build differently, invest differently, think differently. If you want to decode these shifts before they become headlines, you already know where you belong. The next wave won't announce itself politely. It never does.